Hello and welcome to a new video from Create with Gina. Today we're going to work on this MDF box that we had already primed using one layer of gesso in a previous video. I'm going to use brown acrylic paint. Here I chose the terracotta, but you can use any dark color, whether it be dark brown or black or gray, whatever dark color you want. Using a flat brush, I'm painting this layer. It's not important if there are any brush marks. This is just a base coat, so it will not show later on. So I'm just going to go around the whole box, inside and outside, using this color. Now I'm just going to bring a piece of candle. If you don't have a candle, you can use just wax, or you can use Vaseline, and go around the areas that should have wear and tear, which are probably the edges. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So after doing that to the whole surface, just remove any pieces of loose wax, and using the same flat brush, I'm going to give a top color, or a top coat of another color, but it has to be a lighter color. Here I chose ivory. You can choose white, you can choose off-white, you can choose any color that is a light color, preferably in a pastel tone. Now this is because we are trying to work in the style of the shabby chic. Shabby chic is a style and not a technique, because people confuse this a lot. This style originated in the 1980s in England and then spread to the rest of Europe and the whole world. It's a very dreamy style with a lot of whites and off-whites and pastel colors, with birds and flowers. It doesn't have any Victorian lady pictures or anything of that sort. It has a lot of lace and a lot of linen, and it's a beautiful style. Now we have gone around the whole box with our ivory color, and using this sanding sponge, or just sandpaper, I'm going to go over the areas where I applied my candle or the wax. I used 150 grit. You can use 180 or 120, depending on what you prefer. I thought 150 is fine with me. Now, at the areas where we applied the candle, the ivory color gets removed very easily, actually. But if you try and do that in the middle here, where I didn't apply any wax, it just it scours the surface, and it doesn't really remove the color beautifully. It scratches the surface. It doesn't remove the color beautifully as the places where we had the wax put. Now, very importantly, you have to sand the edges of your MDF after they are painted and not before, because if it's done before, then it stays rough. It doesn't become smooth. And now we have gone around the whole box. I chose to use normal printer paper. This is 80-gram printer paper, printed laser. I took it to the bookshop and asked them to print it for me. So it has to be a laser printed image. If it is an inkjet printed image, you have to fix your design first, because if you apply the glue on top, the colors will just smudge. And you can fix it with just a spray varnish, 2 or 3 light coats of spray varnish. Now I'm going to go around the motif and cut it using my scissors. Here I'm not going to tear, because I'm not going to blend my motif with the surroundings. Try to incline your scissors a little bit and keep them steady in the same position, and just move your paper. Try not to move your scissors, just move the paper around. And at the beginning, I just cut the excess paper to make it easier for me to cut around my motif. There are a lot of details in this motif that I didn't really care for, so I just cut them out. But if you are interested in keeping every single little detail, you can use an X-Acto knife and put your paper on a cutting mat and use the X-Acto knife to, cut out every single little detail. And if the paper gets cut for any reason, you can just put it back in position while you are gluing your design. And that's it. We'll just keep going around our motif until we get our image. Yeah, that's it. If you have any pieces of white paper left, just cut them out with the scissors. And now your motif is ready for gluing. I cut out all my motifs, as you can see. And I'm going to use 2 on each side in this way. I'm gonna need just a bowl of regular tap water and Mod Podge as my glue, and you're gonna need a clean cotton towel. Make sure of the position, and then I'm gonna take my motif and dip it in the water. Just put it there for 10 seconds or so. You don't want to soak it or anything, or else it will fall apart. And then you just put it on your towel and dry it. Pat it dry on both sides. And you're ready to glue it. This causes your paper to be, very flexible and malleable in your hand, and it will not give you a hard time while gluing, and it will reduce the chances of having air bubbles beneath your paper. Now I'm using Mod Podge. I'm using the matte Mod Podge. And I'm going to apply a layer of glue. We need to put a good layer of glue. If it's too little, the paper can come out. And this is, of course, something we don't want. Make sure you apply to every part, or else you will get air bubbles. After you position your paper, now this is not very fragile. It will not tear or anything. You can move it around a little bit. And then I'm going to get my plastic bag or plastic wrap and just make sure that there are no air bubbles and get out the extra glue. And that's it. It's glued perfectly. And as I said, the paper is not that fragile, so it can move around easily. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other design, the other motif, I mean. And then just using the same brush and everything, same glue, we add a top coat of the Mod Podge to seal it in place. I usually go around the whole surface, not just my motif, because Mod Podge is a top coat. So this is easy. It's as if you have sealed your whole surface. Now I'm going to use dark acrylic brown paint and a small flat brush. Put it on a plate. And then I'm going to go, as you see, this is what I've done. And I'm going to show you how to do it. I wanted to add some depth because the flowers look so flat. I wanted them to look as if they had their, shadow. So I'm going to go and do some shading around the whole box. First of all, it gives it this aged and distressed look. And at the same time, it gives it depth and character. So it's not just like paper that's glued on top of a piece of wood. So I'm just taking a little paint on my brush. This brush is dry. I didn't want to wet it. And I'm going to go around the whole box, the edges. at the beginning so I can shade my edges. And I'm using a very small brush. It gives me better control. A bigger brush, I tried a bigger brush and it was really, hard to control because this is a delicate piece. I'm gonna go all over the edges up there. If you find that there is a place where you have too much paint or anything, you can just erase it with your fingers, or just like that, like I'm doing. Blend it in with your finger so it looks like a shadow, not a sharp line. This is not what I wanted. I'm going here in real time so you can really see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna tell you while we are watching what I'm doing here, how I'm going to finish my piece. After I'm finished with the painting, you have to add varnish. Now, varnish is very important. It protects your piece against water, against the normal wear and tear. So when applying a varnish, which varnish to choose? We have a lot on the market. So first of all, you have to decide on the purpose of your piece. Is it going to be a high traffic piece used a lot, or is it just something used for decoration? Is your piece going to be subjected to water or not? So this is what will decide if I'm going to use a water-based varnish or a solvent-based varnish. For me, I use water-based all the time, all the way. Even if my piece is going to be subjected to some water, I just increase the number of layers of the water-based varnish. Why don't I like the solvent-based varnish? Because it's usually a solvent-based polyurethane, and it has this yellowing that keeps increasing by time. So if you're painting something that is light, like in a white color or an ivory color, the color changes. I use it when I'm going to paint, seal a dark color, for instance, black or brown, so it's not important. The yellowing will not show, or even a gold color. It will not make any difference. So for me, I use the water-based varnish. It's easier to clean up, no bad smell, so it's easier, but I add a lot of layers. So it's a minimum of 3 layers, sometimes 5 or 6, sometimes more. And this and sometimes I use Mod Podge. It's the same. Okay. The second thing is what kind of finish are you going for? Is this something that is vintage and antique and distressed? So here you have to use a matte finish. Or is it something brand new, or it looks like glass or ceramic? Then you are here you use a glossy finish for your varnish. So to sum it up, I use water-based varnish of a matte finish, around 5 coats, and then at the end I give 1 coat of spray varnish, because sometimes the water-based varnish gets a little bit sticky. Now, as you see here, when I'm shading, as I said, the brush is almost dry, so you can sort of like see I'm sort of like dry brushing around my motif. I don't like the fact that I have this shaded area around the flowers, and then the normal off-white with no transition whatsoever. So this is something I'm going to remedy while I'm going on now. I'm just going to finish the shading first. There's a very important point that I forgot to tell you about, that when we are doing the shabby chic style, when we apply a layer of acrylic paint, and then we added the candle, and then another layer of acrylic paint. If we don't add the wax or the candle, and we sand directly, you can actually remove your 2 layers of acrylic paint. So this is why you have to add the wax. So it is actually easier to remove the top layer without removing the base layer of paint. But if you don't add that, probably both of them will come out, or you will just end up scratching your surface. So I'm going on the final touches. As you can see, I like my shading now, but I wanted to take it, another notch. So now I'm going to take from the brown color and a lot of water. So the color is very watery, and I go around the whole motif. My shading is probably dry by now, so there is no risk of removing it when I remove the diluted color now. I'm just gonna get a paper towel. It's dry, I'm not using baby wipes, and just remove the diluted color. And I'm gonna go around the rest of my motif. So this gives it a more even finish. This is my taste, this is what I like. If you use a wet wipe, all the color will come off, so you don't want that. Yeah. So this is sort of like blending it. Now for a nice finishing touch, I got this straw ribbon and went around the whole box and just, it's a decorative thing. You can use a satin ribbon if you like. And this is the end product. I like it actually and think it's very cute. You can use it for, towels, whatever you like in the bathroom or something. If you like the video, please comment and share and subscribe, and hope to see you later in other new videos.